Hi, I'm Sadia Pineda Hamid and I'm a writer and artist based in Cardiff. And this is a workshop on how to write about food, and in particular turning a recipe that means something to you into a creative writing piece. So the workshop we're going to do today is a very simple one, looking at how you can take a recipe or a food that feels quite important to you and using that to build out a creative writing piece from it. And hopefully in the process you might find a new way of expressing gratitude or love or sharing a nice memory that's connected with it through creative writing.
So the first step is to choose a recipe to start writing about. Now this recipe could be something that you're known for making, it could be something that's a family recipe, or it could be a food that you've always wanted to have a go at. It's always good to choose something that either has a personal significance or memory attached to it, or is a food that just conjures a lot of nice or interesting thoughts for you. As an example, I'm going to take the recipe for mango sago, which is a Filipino dessert, because I quite enjoy cooking it, and recently my friend actually asked me for my recipe for it. Once you've chosen the food that you like to write about, either write out the recipe or you can find the recipe online, which I'm doing. All I'm doing here is copying it and pasting it into my document so I can start working around it. So the next thing to decide on is the general structure of the piece. This means, where does the piece begin? What's happening in it? For example, you could start the piece by finding this recipe in a book, or in my case, receiving a text message from a friend asking for the recipe. This structure at the beginning just gives you a jumping off point for how to start. Now the next part is where you can really get creative. So here, start to take maybe it's some phrases or words from the instructions and really write around them. If there's a sensation or a smell or a colour that brings to mind memories or feelings, then this is a space to start writing them in. You might want to go off on a slight tangent and talk about a memory that is associated with this particular step or ingredient. Or you might want to take a couple of lines to just really describe the sensations or feelings that are conjured from this food or your memory of this food. This is a space for you to really share your relationship to cooking or food or family or memories. If you're not sure where to start, then just start going into detail about one process and see where it takes you. For example, you might want to focus on the process of heating up a pan, maybe the feeling of waiting and the patience you have to have, then the oil sizzling and the sensations and feelings of that. Maybe the kitchen becoming warmer, the sound of birds now entering the room as you open the window to let some air in. All of those things will make a really interesting addition to the recipe. So in the example piece I'm writing now, I'm taking this moment, since I'm talking about mangoes, to share a memory of being a child and my parents coming home with 2 or 3 big boxes of Pakistani mangoes, and the excitement that it's finally mango season, but also the slight silly kind of dread that, wow, we're going to have to eat a lot of mangoes for the next couple of days. Finally, when you have gotten to the end of the recipe, then it's time to end the piece. And there's no pressure to end it in any particular way. You don't need to be conclusive. You just need to end it on a tone that you'd like. For example, you could end it with a short description of what it's like to eat the food that you've made, describing how it tastes and what memories rush back to you. Or you could end the piece in speech, where you finish telling the recipe to a friend or another character. Or you can just end it with the last step of the recipe, because that also gives a kind of interesting and lingering tone to the piece. And that's it. You end up with a very beautiful creative writing piece, whilst at the same time have been able to write out a recipe that will be shareable with friends and family, or for personal use when you do cook. Food is so universal and familiar to all of us, so this is a great exercise to get back into writing or get back into expressing yourself through something that is so everyday and daily for us. This can become a regular exercise that you only spend a couple of minutes on every so often, or you could expand this into a much bigger thing and spend hours perfecting it and writing something much, much more detailed. It's completely up to you how you'd like to use this activity when exploring your creativity.